one of my favorite things about this episode is the music. Like the sex jazz is just
My God, the saxophone was cracking me up every time it came on.
Yeah, that's just a very memorable part of this episode.
There's a few very memorable parts of this episode, but I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Hi, friends.
Howdy, y'all.
Hello.
And welcome to Muppet Sex and Trauma. I'm Sara Ezzat. I make the Fat Culture Critic videos on YouTube.
I'm Josh Gosdin, and I'm a big old nerd.
And with us today...
I'm Vera Wylde. I do way too many things. Look for Council of Geeks for the geeky stuff. Look for Vera Wylde for the spicy stuff. That's the short version.
Good shit.
And this seemed like a good episode to bring you in because it is the spicy... It's not the spiciest episode, but it is one of the very spicy episodes.
There's a little heat. There's a little heat in this one.
Yeah.
Literal and metaphorical.
Cue the saxophone.
Oh, yeah. Not even a sax. It's a muted trumpet.
Oh, my God. I love it. I love it so much.
Meltdown was written by Matt Ford and directed by Ian Barry. We previously saw Matt Ford writing for Eat Me and Ian Barry directing Thanks for Sharing. Grace and Crichton are in the midst of their usual snark-off, when suddenly Talyn hauls off and does a nosedive into a star. The crew are able to pull him back out of immediate danger, but not everything is well aboard the good ship Emo Teenager. They're now stuck in the orbit of the sun. Talyn's secondary control nodule needs repair, and he's leaking teenage hormone vapors that are making the crew variously irritated, hungry, or horny. He's turned them all into teenagers. Only Stark is acting, normal? For a Stark value of normal, he's mumbling to himself and talking to a damsel in distress no one else can see. On command, the crew are assessing how screwed they are. Enter the villain of the piece, McQuillis, the teleporting lava man who lives in a star. He offers them a warning. He is an expositional star-living teleporting lava man. He tells them the star naturally draws in leviathans. Leave now, abandon ship while you still can. But the crew aren't in a listening mood, especially Grace, who just starts firing at the man made of lava. Stark is trying to counsel Siezhna, the distressed damsel. She drops a bit more exposition. Our teleporting, star-living lava man is also a hired Leviathan killer. He lures the living ships into the star for profit. Oh, and he's also her captor. He is a kidnapping, teleporting, star-living lava man. She begs Stark to take her away from McQuillis and to save her, but Stark says he can't save her the way she wants, because she's already dead, and all he can do is his glowy-face death magic to help her move on. Elsewhere, Aaron and Crichton are trying to fix the ship while so distractedly horny that they're creating spontaneous sex jazz. To convince Siezhna that she's dead, Stark takes her to see Rigel, who, as predicted, cannot see her. McQuillis comes to collect her, but when she refuses to leave, he gets angry and turns up the Leviathan lure, causing Talyn to dive once more. He is a vengeful, teleporting, expositional, star-living lava man. And that's when Stark has an idea. On command, the crew are trying to deal with the situation. They're scanning for McQuillis' base and planning to blow it up. But Talyn suddenly stops responding. Stark, in his brilliant idea, has jumped into Talyn's empty pilot's den and bonded with Talyn directly. At first, it seems this might work out after all. Stark is able to pilot Talyn free of the star, but when he finds that Siezhna didn't come with him, he just dives right back into the star's orbit. He'll risk everything to help Siezhna with his glowy face death magic, except that when he tries, it doesn't work. McQuillis is a magic-blocking, expositional, star-living lava man who lures ships to their death. Stark accepts this failure in a totally rational manner. He just completely abandons hope and spirals into despair. But John and Aaron never give up hope. They ignore the sex magic and swing into action, pushing Stark to stop moping and give them control. Working together, they prime the cannon and blow the ship-killing, woman-capturing, expositional, star-living lava man to bits. They save the day and, coincidentally, the damsel. And now that the day has been saved, Aaron and Crichton have a bit of time to just give in to the sex jazz. I thought you'd like that.
That's one of your best summaries in a while. That was fantastic.
Laquillis does have a lot going on, doesn't he?
The plot
It really does.
it does feel like the plot is a little bit yada yada, but I don't care.
It just kept stacking, like, he's even worse than you think he is, because he has another thing that he does bad.
It's funny, like, thinking on it now, this episode in a lot of ways feels like a mashup of elements of earlier episodes. Not completely like done in the same way, but it's like, oh, there's something that's affecting the whole crew. Oh, you mean like in Crackers Don't Matter? Oh, and Stark is kind of acting irrationally. You mean like half the episodes that Stark is in
constantly? Yeah,
yeah. And there's these two beings, and one of them is kind of trapping the other, and initially when they show up, like, the audience may not know which one's the good guy and the bad guy. Like, oh, like, what was it? Bad to the Bone from season 1. Like, it's does what something that is retreading old ground should do, which is to pull from enough sources that it doesn't feel like 100% a recycle job.
Yeah.
It's a well-assembled jigsaw puzzle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those where the plot doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's
all about
accurate.
the character nonsense, and the plot just kind of gives us something to hang the character stuff, because it's just so fun to watch Aaron and John work together.
We'll get to that for me. I know the plot. Every once in a while, Farscape comes up with a plot, or at the very least, a plot Kickstarter that drives me absolutely bonkers, and it's just out of left fieldedness. And this is not one of those plots. This is a very, like, there's a mystery. They solve the mystery. They have to get out of the trap, and of the booby trap, if you will. And John will, and they try to understand what's going on with themselves, and they all catch on pretty quickly because they're this close to being self-aware that they're on a sci-fi show, and it's so perfect. And I really just enjoyed this episode, and I loved initially. I was feeling a little like, okay, so we've got this angelic woman who comes in and is Stark is, as usual, just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Oh my dear Lord. And
she's blue too.
Yeah. And then we've got this dude who literally looks like the damn devil, who appears in a burst of fire. And I was like, okay, this is Farscape. Devil Man could be the good guy. Angel Lady could be the bad guy. And then it was sort of, because they kind of played with that a little bit, it was sort of double re-subverted again. No, Devil Man was actually the bad guy. Angel Lady was actually a good guy. And so I had kind of a fun ride on this episode's roller coaster as well. That was just a hoot.
One of the things that's kind of fun about Sierjna is that her performance it's very soap opera. It's very overwrought.
Sure.
But that works playing against Stark, because whereas pretty much any of the rest of the people on that ship would have been like, what is your deal? He just buys it immediately because that's who he is.
She's Christine. Like, they always call him Phantom of the Opera. She's Christine. Like,
so
the Phantom of the Opera mask guy wandered into the plot of Phantom of the Opera.
Does that make Rockman Raoul?
No, I think yes, the Phantom. Yeah. Yeah.
Every time I fire up one of these episodes, I remember how much I love this show.
Yeah, tell us about your relationship to Farscape. We didn't do that earlier. We'll do that now.
So I discovered Farscape when I was in college. It was in its second season, and I think I might have caught like one episode of the first season at some point. I was like, oh, okay. But then I caught most of the second season and slowly watched Crichton lose his mind. and watching that go on, I'm like, I'm all in on this. And I was following it, and then of course it got canceled. And here was the funny thing. I like bought all the seasons on DVD, watched all of them up through the end of the fourth season. I bought and had for years the Peacekeeper Wars, but I didn't watch it because I was terrified at not liking it. I was terrified at the possibility because I love this show so much. The idea that it got its reprieve to finish off its story with this miniseries. I'm like, what if it's not good? I don't think I could handle it if it's not good. I eventually watched it because I did my own podcast with Jessie Gender. And for me, it was a rewatch. For her, it was her first time. And so when we got to Peacekeeper Wars, that was the thing that we were both watching for the first time. And while I will spoil nothing, I will go, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. It's really good. But I adore this show. It is so weird. And like, Josh, you kind of said, it's a show that almost knows it's a sci-fi show. I think Crichton very much views his experience through the lens of thinking he might as well be on a sci-fi show. Nobody else does, but he absolutely does. And I think that perspective helps. And then just the chance to let like Jim Henson Creature Shop just go nuts with whatever they felt like making that week. And the cast is phenomenal. I'm shocked that more of them haven't done all that much since then. Like probably the most prolific one coming out of this is Claudia Black, because she is the tough woman in every action video game ever for the last decade. Mm-hmm. But they're all so good together. And Ben Browder rides the line between like being in many ways kind of a classically man and kind of handsome, and being a massive nerd, and also in the latter parts of the show, not really stable.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. That's a lot to juggle, but dang it, he does it. But every time I hear either version of the opening theme for this thing, I just get the biggest grin on my face. I'm like, I fucking love this show.
We would love to have you come back if you can let me know offline if you have particular favorites particularly for season 4.
Definitely, absolutely.
Lining up for season 4. So yeah, I'm with you. I love this show, and it's been so fun introducing Josh and Jack as well to it. Jack has had to leave, but yeah. Yeah, and this is one that I wanted to get to because even though it's not plot heavy, it's kind of in the long run a little bit of nothing, but it's just so fun. Like just the sex jazz alone.
Who doesn't love some good sex jazz?
I don't think there are that many flat out bad episodes of this show. Every now and then you get one where it's like
Crichton.
Not that many though.
Even that one, like if I were to take that, if you're going to call that the worst episode of this show, I'm not sure I would. There's a multi-parter in season 4 that I really don't like.
Ooh, yes.
And that one's not, and again, it's not even bad. It's a weird mess. But even if you're going to take those, if that's the worst of Farscape, I would take that over the worst of so many other shows.
True.
Because other shows, even ones that I love, trying to sit through some of the worst Star Trek episodes, the worst Doctor Who episodes, I'm like, this is torture. The worst that Farscape is going to make me do is go, I guess that didn't quite work.
There's no moon abortion.
No. No, there's no moon abortion. I don't even dislike that episode as much as most people, but yes.
Yeah. Anyway. Yes. So where shall we begin to talk about this one, to dig into this one? I found myself kind of fascinated by what's going on with Crace.
Mm.
Mhm.
So, because he's just lost all impulse control. Not that he was ever particularly stable.
Yeah.
None of them are particularly stable.
No. Well, apart from Aaron.
No.
Aaron and maybe Pilot are probably the most stable people.
That's most stable. I'll absolutely grant you most
I'm
stable.
not going to say flat out stable on an objective measure, but on the curve.
None of them are particularly stable, but yeah, they're the most stable. As in, like, the whole class average was a D-, but you got a C-.
Yeah, pretty much. But like part of what was fun for me about coming into this one is I actually quite liked the stretch of that you're in right now in season 3, where there's 2 Crichtons and one on each ship, which again, like, kind of speaks to the core of what I love about the philosophy of the show, which is that a lot of its plots on paper, bullet pointed, are often very common sci-fi show tropes, including this one for that matter. Like, mysterious signal lures ship into a dangerous environment it shouldn't be in. That's bog standard as hell. But to bring it back to the multiple Crichtons, like, a character got duplicated. Okay. And by the end, it'll be wrapped up. They'll remerge into one, or one of them will sacrifice for the other, and status quo will be resumed in by the next episode. Oh, wait, what? Wait. We're not doing. We're actually going to play out consequences to this. Oh, well, shit.
It's the Farscape rule. Everything has consequences.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite things about this show, because I grew up with a very classical Star Trek education, and that's sort of the lens through which I filter a lot of my sci-fi consumption. And I can absolutely see any number of times on this show where they are holding up a standard sci-fi trope and saying, "You want it? Are you sure you want it? No, it's going to be this thing." Like, I was this close in this episode to waiting for Crichton to go, "What does God need with a starship?"
His line that he had that always felt like it was referencing that I did like, it was like, "Godlike aliens. I hate godlike. I will take a critter any day over a godlike alien."
I couldn't remember which episode that line came from. But yeah, I mean, I have always, maybe what God needs from a starship is a snack. So.
Which we see here.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
or a steady paycheck, apparently.
It's
or maybe he just thinks they're pretty. I don't know.
It is funny comparing this to something like Star Trek, because if Star Trek is your classical education, this is your freestyle jazz.
Exactly. Yes.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, it's all music, but doing very different things.
That's probably the best way that I think I've ever heard it described.
Yeah.
And like, just the absurdity of Stark plugging himself into Talyn.
Oh my God. At one point, I'm pretty sure one of those tendrils went up his pants.
I mean, probably. They're like when he was floating, there were so many of those things connected to his lower body. It looked like he had a skirt on.
Yeah. Like, and he was just floating at like crotch to eye level the entire time. And they did a really good job with that effect. Like, it did genuinely look like he was being held up from below rather than held up from above.
Yeah. I kind of had the free floating thing rather than being suspended. They did that very well. Sara, I just love the way that you describe Talyn as the teenage emo ship.
He is. He
is.
We've already had him literally shipping people and making his own fan fiction. He is the emo teenage ship.
Oh yeah. So that is absolutely what he is. And you know what? As much as we've lingered on the sexy jazz in specific, and as much as I do love that music, even without the music, I actually really enjoy those scenes between John and Aaron, because they're trying to get stuff done. They're like trying to fix this part of the ship.
They do fix it.
And they do, but like they want to so bad. they want to stop doing this and start making out so bad, and they're just getting very worked up. Like, are you almost done? I'm almost done. Aaron, I need you to finish. I'm almost there. And as soon as she's done, boom.
It was sort of a climax to that scene.
It was very well written.
When she had Crichton bent over and took his gun and shot a DRD while positioned on his ass. I did not realize Ben Browder was quite that caked up. I'd forgotten that.
Oh, he's a beefcake. He's a beefcake of a man.
No, he is the man that does a lot of squats. And we are grateful.
I was deeply unwell for most of the scenes between the two of them. In like I don't know if it was Claudia Black or Aaron Soon that had me captivated, but I don't know that I would have been able to do nearly as well as John Crichton did if Aaron Soon looked up at me and said, "Why don't we go waste some time?" I'd be like, "You absolutely."
Maybe we should have done this one as a live react. I wouldn't have done that to you.
I was sweating. I was eating hot Cheetos at the same time. It was a whole ordeal.
And of course, Rigel defaults to food.
He does. But even he comes to regret it towards the end. He's like, I never want to look at food again.
Yeah.
You've said that before, Sparky. Like, come on.
But I love his scene with Grace where I was wanting him to throw up on Grace. We already did the throw up thing in the last that was a couple episodes ago when we had romance and vomit. But I was expecting him to throw up on Grace when Grace is threatening him, and
as was I. I was not expecting him to go Mike Tyson on him. But I guess if you're hungry enough.
I mean, he's a biter. He's been a biter from very early in the show.
That's true.
Yeah, well, you got to use what you can.
But of course, like it's not enough that he bites Grace's ear. He bites it and floats off cackling. Because he's just an insufferable little turd.
That he is. But he is a useful sometimes.
It's like I think I've noted elsewhere, like the thing that the show's pretty good at with Rigel is reminding you usually at the start of any given episode that he just did do something really helpful, but we're not going to show you because it was boring. Because he's good at diplomacy, he's good at negotiation. And he's always very quick to big up what he did that helped. Like, we have all these supplies because of me. We made these contacts because of me. I'm like, so we're reiterating he is actually helpful. It's just in a way that would be boring to show. So we're mostly going to show him being an insufferable turd.
He's just so helpful to the writers that he's an insufferable turd, because it really gives us a good... He's not exactly a conflict vending machine, because he does other things. He doesn't just... But he is damn good at creating conflict. Although in this one, he's mostly sidelined in this one.
He's mostly sidelined for more helium jokes, which should be boring by now, but they still make me chuckle. God damn it. Like, the fact that I chuckle at those, I feel bad. I'm like, I shouldn't find this funny.
Indulge.
Who doesn't love a good fart joke?
I rarely do. It's the combination of the fart and then the high-pitched voices. It's the back-to-back. That is what does it.
Mm.
The oldest recorded joke that in the human history is a fart joke from Mesopotamia.
That is a fantastic fact, and I love you for telling me that.
Yeah.
I think the joke, it was one from QI, but it was a joke about, for once a girl sat in a man's lap and didn't fart. We do not have the context to know why that's funny, but apparently it was to them. So So yes. Okay, so shall we delve a little bit into Stark's plot?
Let's sort of take a peek behind the mask. Yeah.
Yes, our damsel in distress, Phantom of the Opera stuff.
Go on.
I mean, like, Stark does nothing by half measures. When he has decided he cares about something, he cares about it so hard.
Well, he's got such a strong sense of moral justice also. Like so part of it is, I think, that she reminds him of Zahn in the most lovely of ways. You know, she's also beautiful and kind of blue. But part of it is just his sense of like, you don't fuck with the dead. Like, you, lava monster, need to let her rest in peace. Everything else is secondary. That's I think the point at which for Stark it becomes a quest.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he always gets such tunnel vision whenever he's decided this is what should happen. And like the connection to Zahn gets made semi-explicitly because trying to talk down Stark later on towards the tail end, John very blatantly like, look, you remember how much you like Zan? That is what Aaron is to me. And if you don't help, you are killing her. You're killing my Zan. And yeah, it's a pressure point, and Crichton is not above pushing on it.
What I love is Stark has always been a mirror of John, a sort of like the most extreme version of aspects of John's character ever since, you know, the my side, your side. And we got
What they call back to here, yeah.
Yeah, we got really, because John is the hero who goes on quests and often fucks them up.
Oh, sure.
And this time, John is busy getting it on or not getting it on.
Really trying not to get it on.
and he's bless his soul, he's trying not to get it on so hard.
I'm sure it is very hard.
I'm sure it is
don't doubt.
very hard, yes.
But and then this like piece of his reflection is going full balls to the wall on stupid, misguided quests, which is noble, because we do have a girl who is the victim of kidnapping and being captured, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the whole Phantom of the Opera stuff, and I think the Phantom of the Opera stuff fits with the fact that everybody is a teenager here, because speaking as the one of us who experienced 13-year-old girlness, Phantom of the Opera musicals is kind of very 13-year-old girl. So we've got a lot of 13-year-old boy stuff happening with everyone else, and Stark is having a bit of 13-year-old girl. Let's go to the Phantom of the Opera and cosplay as the knight errant and fuck it all up.
I mean, part of what's funny is when he turns around and goes back, when they're close enough for Sierra to see him again, she's flat out going like, what are you doing? Yeah. Why did you come back? And not that she's ungrateful, but even she's going, what the hell are you doing, man?
He was such a good villain, though. I really liked this villain. As much as they definitely stacked him up and gave him like every bad guy trope that they possibly could, he was also just very like perfectly selfish and conniving, you know. And John kind of calls it out a little bit when he's like, do you guys all have like a handbook that you quote from? But he's pitch perfect for this kind of a story.
And he had that sexy voice too.
It's a good voice. I really love when he shows up and he's like, I'm here. I want to help you. And John just goes, that's what they all say.
Like he shows up and apropos nothing. He's like, I see you're caught in this totally natural phenomenon. How strange that you're caught in this totally natural phenomenon. Like they barely get to ask him.
Normally, you'd already be dead from this totally natural phenomenon. Care to tell me why you're not?
I was just so curious.
What is this strange ship?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, he shows up again. And it's so clear that he is screwed because he's like, "Well, let's bargain. I'll let you go, and you just leave me alone." And it's like, okay, so clearly, whatever we were about to do, just that's it for you. So why would we not now just do it?
Yeah, his bargain is. I mean, it's like that's the most basic of if I let you go, you'll go. What do you think? Do we have a deal?
Yeah, basically.
Like
But I mean,
nothing.
Well, that's the thing. He has nothing to offer because all he was ever going to do was kill them. And all that he can offer to do is not kill them. But they've already figured out how to deal with him. So that has no value coming from him.
The only real threat is themselves.
Because as is also usual for Farscape.
I was going to say
is off there shooting every gun he can get his hands on and just
I love when Crace is banging on the door to the what is firmly established to be a vestigial pilot's chamber. Because like it's not being used, but they couldn't mess with Talyn's DNA enough for it to not be there at all. But he's banging on this door to get in. And Aaron's just looking at him like, why don't you blast the door open? And he's banging on it with the butt of his gun. And he goes, yes, that's a good idea. Give me your gun. And she's just looking at him like, what? And then he points his gun at her. Like, give me your gun so I can blast the door open. And she just leaves. And then he goes back to bashing on the door with the butt of his gun.
But she doesn't just leave. Like the face she gives him.
Yeah, I love that face.
Oh, there's a face she makes later when they're talking down Stark. And he's like, would Zan approve of this act of violence? And Aaron goes, she would, Stark. Zan's talking through me right now. And then she just glances over to John. It's just this little,
I loved that moment too.
Yes.
Also, Zan totally would approve this act of violence.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah.
Like, Zan would have been doing the violence.
Zan would have punched McQuillis the moment he showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Chief anarchist, never forget.
Yes.
She would have gone full 11th Doctor on his ass. I'll find it and I'll tell you a story.
One of the things that I love about the Stark story is just how dramatically he succumbs to fatalism. It's just like, I failed at everything. I failed. And then John responds with, you failed gloriously.
You failed so good.
Yep.
Now moving on.
Just big teenage feelings. Something I didn't work. I'll just lay down and die.
Despair.
The world is over. Yeah. But I mean, that's one of those things. I think a show that wasn't Farscape would have been like, no, you haven't failed. Come on, push through it. You can do it. You can do the thing. And John is just like, you failed gloriously. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah, you did. Get over it.
Which is sort of the Farscape version of saying, like, why do we fall, Master Wayne? So we can learn to pick ourselves up again. That was my Michael Caine impression.
Yeah.
Instead, the Farscape version is, yes, you suck. We know. Let's go.
Moving on. Yeah.
It's usually like, yep, we all sucked. Now next plan.
Now for the next plan that won't work.
Yeah. The important thing is that they never do give up, which is why I love the moment where they realize that they're giving up, when they're just like, and they're like, we don't do this. This is the mist talking. Resist the mist.
Yeah, I got I got the sense that at that point there was some kind of like interstitial psychic interaction happening. Now that Stark was plugged into Talyn, and we see we see Moya and Pilot kind of vibing on the same wavelength very often, and so Stark's like overwhelmed with despair, and so Talyn is also now starting to exude despair mist in addition to horny mist, and so that was how I read that moment, was them realizing, wait a minute, we're all giving up, and that's not right. Like, we normally wouldn't give up at this point.
Interesting that their version of giving up was, well, I guess we'll just bone until we die.
I mean, if you're going to go out.
Yeah, I'm not objecting. I certainly don't disagree with that sentiment.
I mean, especially if it's Ben Browder or Claudia Black, because those are two exceptionally beautiful human beings.
This is the point that I'm making. I was a wreck this entire episode.
It is a fantastic piece of writing. This is again from the guy who is from Matt Ford, the guy who wrote Eat Me, which we loved, and who the Yum Yum podcast told us was the front man of a band called Machine Gun Fellatio. Which is a very Farscape kind of name.
I now want to imagine that was the band, that was the name of the band when John was being interrogated by the Scarran and had this whole hallucinatory version of Earth with like Pilot playing the bongos. I'm now imagining that's the name of that band.
Yep, it's a good band name.
I can go with that.
Yeah. So, do we have any theme stuff we want to talk about other than the whole like? Do we have any more on the whole teenage thing?
Sex is good, but distracting.
Sure. Yes, I'll take that.
Although consent is important, because that was something McQuillis didn't get.
No.
Yeah. Oh man, it wasn't. He was also giving domestic violence vibes as well.
Yes.
A bit. Yeah.
Very, very unfortunate.
It is a very operatic plot of like the big, scary, mean guy who's captured the damsel in distress. I do kind of wish that she wasn't such a damsel in distress. I mean, it fits. And of course, that Stark ends up being in distress as well and all that. And, Aaron is there. But I was hoping for something. On repeat viewings, I sort of noticed that she just kind of gives sexy lamp.
Yeah, she floats around both literally and in the plot.
Sexy ghost lamp.
Yeah, and it would have been nice if like she'd done something.
Yeah, like honestly, I think I've had this thought every single time I've watched this one. It is kind of to the point that I have tried. It doesn't work, but I have found myself wondering every time I watch this, like, is it interpretable that she only exists in Stark's head? And
that's what Rigel was thinking.
It's not quite, because McQuillis shows up and interacts with her and Stark and verifies everything. But if not for that, I could honestly buy it.
Yeah, I had the similar like, wait, is it? No? Okay, McQuillis is getting it too. But yeah. There is. Yeah, I'm just, it's unusual on Farscape that we have a damsel in distress who's just played straight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unusual that anything's played straight on Farscape.
Gayest straight show ever put on television.
Unquestionably.
Yeah, you can't tell me that Aaron and John aren't queer. It's just kind of, Farscape is the queerest show ever.
The queerest show in space.
Yeah. It is fun where you're watching these, like, okay, I can't really pitch this to a friend as a queer show in the truest sense, But like, if we're going by vibes,
Yeah, this is a
Vibe-wise.
universe in which heterosexuality doesn't exist.
yeah, this is a very queer show based on vibes.
Based on queer theory, yes.
Yeah, it's a good allegory. I mean, there are definitely literal moments earlier in the show. I think Zahn gets some flirty time with Aaron as well, but like, it's a very good allegory.
Well, also there was the lesbian mind sex.
Oh God, I forgot about the lesbian mind sex.
Although it was killer lesbian mind sex. So
Probably I forgot about it.
Well, yes, it has to. You're gonna stick killer on the front of most things because it's Farscape.
yes, yes, and then of course there's the fact that I don't think there's a neurotypical person on this crew either, and Stark I read as allegorically neurodivergent.
I'm not sure there's a neurotypical person in this galaxy.
Fair.
I'll hop to that as well.
But this one adds to my Stark is allegorically autistic thing, I think, because of the tunnel vision and the like. Yeah,
Emotional dysregulation.
So I don't think he can spell emotional regulation. But yeah, this one he gets sent in on a special interest quest of questing and saving the girl, and forgets absolutely everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then
hyper-focus.
Yep, and then when things fall apart.
Sorry, I just got hung up on the idea that nobody's. I think the only neurotypical regular on the show is Braca. I think he might be it.
The subbiest sub of all subs.
Yes, you can be neurotypical and still be a sub.
Neurotypical, yeah.
I haven't met many neurotypical spicy people.
Fair. So like,
yes,
that's as neurotypical as we can get, and it's still that.
Yes.
I will never get over the fact that Scorpius's outfit was put together by pieces bought at a sex shop. It's just so shiny and tight. So I know he's not even in this episode, but I love Scorpius so much, and Harvey is my favorite character in literally anything ever.
Yeah, I wonder what Harvey would be doing in this episode if we'd actually seen him. I think it would have gotten an R-rated.
Probably, yeah.
If not X-rated. Does anybody have anything else?
Oh, there was one thing at the end. As Crace is, I guess, deworming Stark towards the very end and pulling all of the cables out of him, which again, horrifyingly sensation. Stark alludes to the fact that once again, Crace has been editorializing what he's been telling all of the characters, specifically about what Talyn wants, feels, and about their relationship with him. Because Stark keeps saying, like, I know, Crace, I know. And Crace is just like, you know nothing. So I'm interested in that foreshadowing. I'm curious to see where that thread goes.
It's a good moment. I particularly like the, if you cut my throat, I will still know.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what's actually really fun that we didn't talk about at all is the open on this.
Oh, yes.
Because it opens with what initially seems like it might be like a flashback or a callback or a fill-in for, Crace basically negotiating with Aaron's mother and like cutting a deal and getting ready to turn everybody over. And then Crace just turns to the camera and goes, is that really what you think happened? And we realize this is a conversation between Crace and Crichton because Crichton's basically accusing him of selling them out. But it's played so straight until suddenly he just turns to the camera and goes, really?
Yes, I love it. It's all soap opera, Phantom of the Opera. We all
Every opera possible.
All the opera. I mean, operatic is a good word for this show, actually. It does nothing small.
Unquestionably.
Yeah, it has very space
honestly,
opera.
if this show had been made a decade later, I guarantee you it would have had a musical episode.
Yes.
Oh my God, I want a Farscape musical now, Vera.
You're welcome.
What do you think the Farscape musical would have been like?
I want as much of it to sound like the opening music as they could possibly have managed. Like, it's still, I like the version in seasons 1 and 2 slightly better than the versions in 3 or 4 and seasons 3 and 4, just because the one in seasons 3 and 4 sounds closer to normal music, and I like how, what the fuck is this? The opening theme for the first 2 seasons is, but they are still in the same vein. And I would love a musical where as much as possible sounded like that, because it's like, what are we even doing? What even is this?
I can't decide if I would like Dargo to sing like punk or just
Dargo would like to sing punk.
Full on, like you expect punk, and then all of a sudden he does a beautiful heartfelt ballad because he is my big sensitive himbo zaddy.
I kind of want him to sing soul, actually.
Oh, yes.
I want Dargo to sing a heartfelt ballad, and I want Pilot to be on tickling the ivories behind him. So here's the challenge for all of our viewers and listeners. In the comments, tell us what musical genre you think each character's solo in the Farscape musical would be.
Yes, we already did a thing. We'd made a playlist of suggested what we thought our songs for our various characters were.
Ooh.
Which is in on the channel. There's a playlist. Yeah, there's, I think we can all happily add to that with anyone's suggestions of what they think the songs that our characters were sing. Because I think I did give Dargo I gave him, I think it was Maybe This Time from Cabaret. Yes, and I think John would definitely be singing hits from The Wiz and Wicked. Just the whole defying gravity number.
Oh, that man. Oh, you know what Harvey would sing? Tom Waits.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah.
I love that this is very much the kind of show that just makes you think weird thoughts and want to share them.
This is that show, unquestionably.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think it might be a good time to sort of take a minute to think about the character journey of Talyn, because he is such a character in this episode without really being seen. Well, I mean, because he's always seen because he's the background.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like with the times that we've spent on Talyn, we had the Thanks for Sharing where they met up with him again, and he was very much being a moody teen with his mom and took off on his own. And then we had the Romance and Vomit with Green Eyed Monsters, where he was shipping Crace and Aaron and trying to kill John. Mm-hmm. And then he wasn't particularly active in the last one in Relativity. But again, we did learn he got mostly lobotomized, and then he got a chunk of Crace's personality to replace it.
He's only mostly lobotomized.
And now we have him attempting self-harm or Is it that or is it playing chicken? I'm not sure, but it's some stupid teenage shit.
Well,
This is allegorical towards. And then
here's the
getting a
thing.
dose of Stark into him.
I think if we're going to get into, because this is actually an issue for Talyn and has been off and on for a while up to this point, which is that for all of his bluster and rebelliousness and headstrong nature, I think there's a part of him that knows he needs guidance, and he's actually not all, it's not uncommon for him to be led by, in a direction that maybe isn't good for him. I mean, initially just by Crace, but here there's the Siren Star, and then he's following what Stark says. I think there's a part of him that knows, like, for all of his bluster, he knows he needs a guiding hand. I think he's very bad at finding a good one. but when he has one, he tends to allow himself to be led.
Much like a teenager.
Yeah, pretty regularly. And which, and because when you're in your youth, one of the things I think a lot of people do is, whether very much just latch onto somebody and hope for guidance, or whether it's just like, well, I guess I'll try this in this direction, or I'll do this with these people, and maybe this will work better, and maybe this will fill the gaping hole of emptiness in my soul that I don't know what to do with, that makes me a miserable shit.
Also very teenager.
Yes.
What is this world that I found myself in? And it's scary. I don't know what to do, but I'm gonna chase the thing that feels good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh, somebody told me what to do, and I can feel good by doing it, because it's not a thing that makes me angry, because then I'll just shoot them.
Yeah. But it's the people who are stepping up to lead him, apart from Aaron, who when she tried to help guide him, he tried to kill the man she loves.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, it's in the everything has consequences in Farscape. This history of this ship that has been created by people who didn't think things through, and then stolen by Grace before.
Who also wasn't thinking things through.
Who really doesn't think things through. And it's just kind of like, I mean, we're Muppet sex and trauma, and the trauma that I'm seeing is Talyn's. And I'm not sure it bodes well for him that he's just gotten a dose of Stark.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. I mean,
yeah, having Stark in your head to any degree is probably not good for most people.
Yeah, and especially when you already have a lot of Crace in your head.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I just thought it was a good time to take a bit of a check-in for this ship is not in good shape.
Nope.
Yeah.
Clearly. Needs some love, needs some guidance.
Get that ship a therapist.
Yeah, seriously.
Dr. Fairchild? No, that was who Aaron played. I can't remember who Zahn played.
That episode is so good.
I love that episode so much. Just talking about like how volatile he is. There's almost kind of a literalization of that with some of the repairs that Aaron and John are doing early on. And John's like, for as much power as this guy packs, his internals are all a mess. He sneezes and half the systems go down.
Yeah.
Which like is kind of him in a nutshell. Very powerful, very unstable, very volatile.
He's fragile. He's a fragile young man.
He's baby.
There you go.
Yeah. And
he's baby with a gun.
Yes, he is a toddler with a cannon. Well, now he's gone from toddler to teenager. And I don't know that that's better. That's probably worse. So I don't know.
Oh, Talyn.
Josh, do you have any prediction of where you think the story of Talyn may go?
Well, they mentioned, kind of being on the lookout for Moya at the beginning of this episode, since as far as they're concerned, at this point, the retrieval squad problem has been solved, until as everybody's predicting another one comes along. So I'm hopeful that we'll get a Talyn and Moya reunion. I don't know if Leviathans can cry, but I probably will. And, just a good opportunity to kind of bring everybody back together. What that's going to do for the Johns, I'm even more excited about.
Okay. A reminder that Josh is unspoiled and we do not.
Yeah,
I do not spoil Josh.
Intermittently, I have been jumping onto IMDb to double check when certain stuff happens to be sure what was safe to reference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I think those are good predictions. Yeah. Do we have anything else?
It's just fun. I mean, the show's usually fun. Sometimes the show is heavy, but the show is usually fun, and this is one where clearly the objective is let's have these characters cut loose a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and boy, was it fun! So we do have a couple comments from recent episode.
I want to mention to everybody who does comment, I love hearing what you guys say, and I really appreciate y'all.
So we've got two on losing time. From Rose Harless. We love Rose. Frequent commenter. Zahn is definitely a blue Siamese cat. So for context, Vera.
I don't think I need any. I think that is a self-evident statement. I'm good, actually.
One of the comments that we got from a listener was that they had a cat named Dargo. So we were who is a tabby. So we were trying to come up with who we think the various animals for our characters would be, and I think she nailed Zahn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Also losing time, Molly Mockery, another frequent commenter. I always thought that one of the unexplored potential threads in this episode was the parallel between Chiana and the child energy rider. They both come from repressive societies with an emphasis on conformity that see those who deviate from approved structures as being diseased and in need of violent correction. It would be interesting if that was why the child rider chose Chiana, or why we had narrative throwbacks to Durka Returns. This could have been a great Chiana episode, and I'm kind of bummed we missed out. Well, speaking of this show being very queer, I mean, we have
sure.
Chiana. She's great. I've met her at a con twice. She's lovely.
Oh, she seems it.
Gigi Edgley, yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty fair criticism of that episode.
Yeah, that was one that I definitely felt needed a bit more baking. With the losing time, because interesting ideas, and that was one. It was interesting themey stuff on Chiana, but nothing that got expanded on. Laying track while the train is running. Sometimes things get developed. So those are our recent comments. Don't think we got any new Patreon people yet to shout out this time. But are you ready for the next episode title?
Lay it on me.
Scratch and Sniff.
Okay.
I'd love to hear any predictions you want to make about that title.
Prediction about the title, Scratch and Sniff, you say. I think what's going to happen is the crew of Moya is going to try to restock their food supplies through a paper company. And all of their food is going to be paper. And the entire episode is going to be people licking sticky notes with pictures of food on it. That's my prediction.
I love it. And if everything works out, we will be joined by Finn. Returning guest, Finn Olsen. So, yes.
Ooh, that will be interesting. I'm remembering some of the specific imagery from Scratch and Sniff, and I'll keep my mouth shut. Have fun.
Thanks.
Yep. So that'll be fun, and next week for us, 2 weeks for you folks. And then we will be reacting to the episode that comes after that one, and we will have another guest for that two-parter. A reminder that when we watch two-parters, we do them as one episode. So I will give you the title of that next time, but that's just a heads up for folks out there to prepare for. So, without further ado, from Meltdown, what is your favorite part? And we'll start with Vera, our guest.
I just got to go with the muted trumpet. Every single time that thing kicked in, I'm like, oh, here we go.
I could not get enough of all of the double entendres that were stacking up, especially in the final scene in Talyn's control center when John and Aaron were both up there, and she was like, I could prime the cannon, not that cannon. And he goes, I know.
I'm still not stupid.
Yeah.
I think, as much as I love all the sex stuff, my favorite is John's talking to depressed Stark at the end and being like, you failed gloriously. Now stop. now let us fix it, So yeah.
But Stark has that moment where he's like, do you remember when we first met? And John's going, you want to walk down memory lane?
My side, your side, my side. No, it is a great one for the reflection of John and Stark. Yes. And as always, I am reminded of one of Lonnie Diane Rich's sayings about love, that the best love stories are when we get to see people working well together.
Mm-hmm.
And John and Aaron really worked well together in this episode.
They really worked so well together.
Yes, they did.
And it's a treat to watch. So, okay, so that was Meltdown. And Vera, thank you so much for joining us. It's been delightful. I hope we can find a way to schedule for you to come back for another episode.
I would love to. I adore this show so much.
Glad you're here.
And do you want to tell the folks where they can find you for all the spicy and variety of spices that you do?
Oh, okay. We'll start with the vanilla, then we'll build up to the spicy. If you look for Council of Geeks, that is sort of my most polished geeky stuff. Some of it's video essay stuff, some of it's review material. On the Council of Geeks YouTube channel, new videos every Saturday. Sometimes there are additional videos, but that is guaranteed. There's also the Break Room of Geeks, which are more casual, and I just talk about whatever I have watched and listened to or played lately. I also have Council of Geeks accounts on Instagram, Twitter, I will not call it anything else, and Twitch. Now, if you're interested in the spicy stuff, you can look for Vera Wylde, Wylde spelled Wylde. YouTube is the closest to safe for work that I get, even though I'm going to be shooting reviews of sex toys next week. But also you can find content under Vera Wylde on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok, OnlyFans, ManyVids, and Fansly.
You're
Lovely.
So good at that.
I do it a lot. I like every time. There's the Council of Geeks podcast feed. You can look for that as well. Currently going through
You're finishing up Babylon 5, aren't you?
Yep, we're working our way through Babylon 5. We're almost done with season 4. I do that with Jesse Gender. The name of the podcast is Jumpgate, but it's on the Council of Geeks podcast feed. And if we go further back in the feed, you can listen to What the Frell, which was the Farscape podcast that Jesse and I did together before we got onto Babylon 5. So there's the other thing. And because what I realized is, I often forget to promote that because the place where I go through most of these things is outros on the episodes of that podcast, and I don't have to shout it out because I'm on it.
I'm a fan. It's a great podcast. I think anyone who's seen my YouTube channel knows that I love Babylon 5. It's such a fascinating mess.
I am enjoying it a lot. Like we've got Jesse and I have a lot of critiques just because of who we are as people, but it is ultimately a very good show. And I have headcanon for Franklin that I refuse to let go of for as long as I can possibly hold on to.
I know it's a great headcanon. No, I think you can't watch Babylon 5 properly without criticizing it, because it's just like, it's just what it is. It's like this fascinating experiment where they were figuring out how to write like long form storytelling on television and trying to do a whole bunch of stuff that had never been done before. So like, it's just like he just throws everything at the wall, and
most of it sticks.
Most of it sticks. Yeah. And the stuff that doesn't is really interesting to learn from most of the time. Anyway, Josh, where can folks find you?
Not nearly as many places. I spend time over my corner of Instagram, and most of my content over there is related to food that I enjoy cooking, and my own self-care in general.
And that's enough.
You're important and you matter.
Yes.
What about you, Sarah?
I am Sara Ezzat. I do the Fat Culture Critic videos on YouTube. I am working on some stuff. I am not good at the spiel.
Working on some stuff.
Yes, I am working on. I'm working on a few things. I've got and you know that I often end up with like rambling reactionary discussions. But I went the other week to Vancouver for a documentary film festival to watch the Your Fat Friend video or documentary. And I still need to record the discussion of that because afterwards I got very sick and lost my voice. That was absolutely fabulous. And I will be doing a discussion of that that hopefully is out by the time this comes out. You can join us in a couple of weeks for our discussion of Scratch and Sniff. And of course, you can find the podcast at all the podcasty place, at all the socially places that will be listed in the doobly-doo. I'll also include Vera's link tree so you don't have to memorize the entire spiel.
Thank goodness for that thing.
Yeah. So, and thank you to Vera for joining us, and thank you, folks. That is it from us.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Be seeing you.
You gonna say something?
Oh, I suppose. I could just sit here and just stare at you awkwardly and just make for the weirdest podcast ever. Hi.